Chapter 1, The Song That Shaped the World. Feel the humidity of the air before the first rain, not as ordinary humidity, but as living breath. Listen, beneath the ground, to the murmur of groundwater that follows not human laws, but stellar rhythms. See, in the night sky over the Bandiagara Plateau, a star that doesn't shine, but pulsates, Sirius, the origin. Before there was a river, a name, or a prayer, there was already sound. And this sound had form, elongated, brilliant, covered by a moist skin that reflected the starlight like liquid silver. It was the Nommo. In the oral traditions of the Dogon, preserved by the Hagan of Mali, the Nommo are not distant gods, but the first teachers, beings who descended from the sky not to rule, but to teach harmony. They came from Sirius B, the invisible companion star, whose existence the Dogon knew centuries before telescopes, not by magic, but because the Nommo told them. Amma, the supreme creator, shaped the universe like a cosmic egg, but his first creation, Ogo, the rebellious androgynous being, stole a fragment of the primordial chaos and fled, disrupting the world's balance. It was then that Amma created the Nommo, pure beings of water and light, with no joints in their arms, so as never to judge, and eyes that never close, because the cosmos never sleeps. They descended to Earth in an arc of condensed sound, a vibrating sphere that carried the language of the universe. Upon touching the ground, the arc exploded in 4 directions, and from its fragments were born the 4 elements, with water being the first to touch dry land. The most sacred act, however, was the ritual sacrifice of one of the Nommo. His body, divided into 8 parts, was buried in different parts of the earth, and from each sprouted an ancestral Dogon lineage. It was not an act of pain, but of sowing, for, in Dogon cosmology, life is born only when the divine surrenders itself to the world. The Nommo don't ask for worship, they ask for attunement. For the Dogon, the universe is not a mechanism, but a cosmic choir, and each being has a note to sing. But now, a new imbalance is growing. The young forget the chants, the rivers dry up from neglect, and the star Sirius seems to blink more slowly. Silence creeps in. Someone needs to hear the chant again, before it is lost forever, and the world loses its rhythm, its memory, its soul. Chapter 2, The Arc That Exploded in 4 Directions. Feel the impact not as a crash, but as a resonance, a wave that ripped through bones before touching the ground. Hear the first sound of the ordered earth, not a scream, but a low, liquid, aquatic chant, coming from the center of the plateau. See the arc of light, not made of metal, but of condensed vibration, shatter into 4 fragments that fly to the 4 corners of the world. This is the moment when the chaos of Ogo is sealed and order begins. In the Dogon cosmogony, recounted by the elders before the cliffs of Bandiagara, the arrival of the Nommo was a cosmic intervention. Amma, the creator, sent beings of living water, not distant spirits, but incarnate presences, to restore the balance shattered by Ogo's rebellion. Their elongated bodies symbolize the axis of the world, their lidless eyes, the eternal vigilance of the cosmos. Upon colliding with Earth, the celestial arc released 4 primordial currents, ritual fire to the north, fertile land to the south, word to the east, and deep water to the west, where the Nommo chose to dwell. The true miracle, however, came with the ritual sacrifice of the primordial Nommo. Amma, with a solemn gesture of offering rather than violence, dismembered his body into 8 parts, which were buried with specific chants in places that became invisible shrines. From these tombs were born the 8 founding lineages of the Dogon people, not by chance, but by cosmic resonance. For the Dogon, the human body is a microcosm of the universe, and the essence of the Nommo multiplied in the flesh, blood, and breath of those who live in harmony. This is how the first humans learned to plant crops following the cycle of Sirius, to sing to summon rain, to dance with Kanaga masks imitating the movement of the stars, and, above all, to listen to the silence between the sounds, where truth dwells. But everything depended on one sacred condition, never to desecrate the water. For where water is disrespected, the Nommo fall silent, and the world slips back into chaos. Centuries later, Kale, grandson of a Hagan, but raised in the city, returns to the village after his grandfather's death. He finds rituals emptied, wells dry, young people indifferent to the ancestral chant. On the night of the burial, he goes to the bank of the sacred river and asks, more out of custom than faith, "Are you still there?" The water doesn't answer. But at dawn, he finds damp footprints in the sand, elongated, heelless, as if someone had emerged from the depths and walked to the door of his house. The Nommo haven't gone away. They're just waiting for those who still know how to ask. Chapter 3, The Body That Became Seed. Smell the wet earth at dawn, not just damp, but alive, as if breathing beneath your feet. Hear the silence of the river not as absence, but as attention, the kind of stillness that precedes a revelation. See the footprints in the sand, elongated, jointless, glistening with a dew that is not of this world. Kale recoils, not out of fear, but out of recognition. Raised in the city, he treated the Nommo as metaphors, poetic symbols of ancestral wisdom. But before those impossible marks, he feels a chill that comes from the memory of blood. Because the Dogon know, the Nommo did not disappear. They were transformed. In oral tradition, the dismemberment of the primordial Nommo was an act of cosmic fertilization. His eyes became perennial springs, his arms, unwavering rivers, his heart, the spiritual center beneath the baobab tree, and his breath, the ritual song that calls for rain. And in every human being, the elders say, there is a Nommo drop, a spark of connection with the whole. To lose it is to fall into the state of ogo, selfishness, noise, disorder. Kale, without realizing it, almost lost it. In the city, he brokered the sale of sacred lands to foreign companies, calling it progress. Now, he sees the parched fields, the poisoned wells, the old men weeping before empty altars. Following the footprints to the river, he encounters an intermediary being, silver skin, elongated eyes, a voice made of vibration, not words. The Nommo does not speak, it makes Kale hear within himself, you sold the water path. Now, reopen it. It is not punishment, but an invitation. Because the Nommo do not punish, they remind him. And Kale understands, his grandfather's death was no accident. It happened in the year the Sirius cycle closes, when the Sigue, the great ceremony that occurs every 60 years, aligned with the orbit of Sirius B, should begin. But no one knows how to sing it anymore. And if the Sigue is not celebrated, the Nommo will withdraw their song from the world. The aquatic being disappears into the surface of the river, as if absorbed by the water. Kale remains alone, with a piss seed in his hand and a drop of water suspended in the air, as if awaiting his choice, to let it fall or to keep it in his heart. But time is short. Rumors circulate. Men in suits come from the south with papers and promises, wanting to divert the river to irrigate gold mines. And Kale knows what others don't, that if they do, the Nommo will never return. The seed in his palm is not just grain. It is responsibility. It is memory. It is the last thread that still connects the world to the song that shaped it. Chapter 4, the song that cannot be forgotten. Feel the weight of the piss seed in the palm of your hand, not as a grain, but as an oath. Hear the wind blow between the cliffs of Bandiagara with a different tone, not of lamentation, but of urgency. See the drop of water, still suspended in the air, reflecting the sky like a small mirror of Sirius. Kale doesn't let it fall. With a slow gesture, he brings the drop to his lips and drinks, and in that instant, he is flooded with liquid memories, his grandfather dancing with the Kanaga mask, elders chanting in a sacred tongue as the river rises without rain, Sirius B pulsing in sync with the drums, and, finally, a devastating silence, empty temples, dry rivers, children who no longer know the name of the Nommo. He falls to his knees, not out of weakness, but in awakening. He understands that the Nommo live in language, in ritual, in movement, in harmony with the cosmos. And if the last Hagen dies without a successor, the thread connecting the world to the primordial song is broken. That night, Kale goes to the council house and asks to learn the Sigue song. The elders resist. He left, lived in the city, betrayed the ways. But Yaya, the oldest of the wise women, intervenes. The Nommo left footprints for him. This is no coincidence. It is called. Faced with this sign, no one dares refuse. She hands him a small drum made of gourd and antelope skin. The first song is not in the language. It is in the silence before the sound. Play when you feel the river listening. Days pass in trial and failure, until, on a moonless night, Kale hears voices coming from the bottom of the river, a chorus of ancient vibrations, without words, only resonance. He plays the drum. One note. Then another. And the river responds with a silvery glow rising from the surface, as if stars were being born in the water. But danger arrives with leathery steps and false smiles. Men in suits appear with maps and contracts, promising progress in exchange for diverting the river. Ancestors don't pay bills, they say coldly. Kale knows, it's not just a watercourse they want to alter, it's the Nommo's body they intend to cut. And the Nommo, when wounded, retreat forever. That night, he returns to the river, not to ask for help, but to offer sacrifice. Take my voice, if necessary. But don't let the song die. The water trembles. From deep within, a question emerges, not in sound, but in feeling. Are you ready to become a bridge, and not a man? Kale closes his eyes. And answers with his heart, yes. Chapter 5, The Bridge of Water and Silence. Feel the chill that comes not from the river, but from the space between two worlds, the place where Kale now dwells. Hear the drum not as an instrument, but as a pulse, the heartbeat of a body that is no longer his alone. See his skin, in the moonlight, acquire a faint silvery glow at his temples, as if the essence of the Nommo were rising within him. The river's answer was silence, and for the Dogon, silence is the highest form of speech. The next morning, Kale wakes with a dry throat, not from thirst, but from transformation. His voice is hoarse, barely audible. Yaya touches his neck and whispers, "The Nommo have accepted your sacrifice. Your voice will no longer be for the ordinary world. It will be for the subtle world." He is not mute, he is attuned. The elders, now reverent, take him to the sacred cave beneath the cliff, where the secrets of Sigüe are kept in gestures, wicker baskets, and silences. There, Yaya reveals the truth. Sigüe does not celebrate the dead, but renews the cosmic pact every 60 years, when Sirius B completes its invisible orbit. If the ritual fails, the thread between heaven and earth frays. But there's a problem. Kale has never learned the 4 fundamental chants. You will have to hear them, not with your ears. With the bones in your neck. For days, Kale remains fasting by the river, still as stone. Until, one humid dawn, the first chant emerges, not from the sky or the water, but from within him, as if his blood has begun to sing. It is the song of the water, low and undulating. As he chants it, even without an audible voice, the leaves bend, fish leap, and the river rises. But the men in suits don't wait. That afternoon, they bring in excavators that roar like metallic beasts. Before the first furrow opened in the riverbank, Kale throws himself to the ground and sings, not with his mouth, but with his entire body. A deep vibration causes the machines to stop, the engines to fail, and the workers to retreat in panic. When the leader insists on continuing, Kale intones the second chant, the wind song, and black clouds pour down a silvery rain that rusts the machines within hours. The invaders flee. But Kale collapses, exhausted, his skin cold as a river at midnight. When he wakes in the cave, he finds Yaya beside him, with a bowl of water and a stern warning, "You used the chant untimely. That has a price. The Nommo don't give power. They give responsibility. And all responsibility bleeds." Kale tries to speak, but not even a whisper comes out. "Don't worry," she says with a sad smile. His voice has not yet died. It is preparing for the third chant, the one that calls the ancestors back into the body of the world. But in his eyes is a warning. If he fails the Sigüe, it will not only be the river that dries up, it will be humanity's memory of harmony. And out there, under the night sky, Sirius shines with an almost conscious intensity, watching, waiting, counting the days until the chant is completed, or forgotten forever. Chapter 6, the third canto, What Calls the Ancestors. Smell the damp clay and the smoke of sumu incense, the sacred herb that grows only near the Nommo springs. Hear the low hum that comes not from the wind, but from the very bones of the world, vibrating beneath your feet. See Kale, now wrapped in a white robe with silver stripes, sitting in the center of the cave, his hands buried in the earth up to the wrists. His body is no longer his own, it is a channel. Since chanting the first 2 cantos, he has entered the state the Dogon call water Nyama, his spirit so deeply aligned with the life force of the cosmos that it glows from within. His eyes reflect Sirius even by day, his footprints leave dew. But the price is high, each use of the canto consumes a piece of his humanity. He no longer feels hunger, nor desire, nor dreams of the ordinary world. His dreams are all submerged in rivers of stars, elongated bodies dancing in spirals, the universe unfolding like a wave. Yaya knows time is running out. The Sigüe must begin on the next full moon, the one that coincides with the rare conjunction between Sirius and Epsilon Orionis, an alignment that only occurs every 60 years. If the chants are not chanted with cosmic precision, the pact is broken. The third chant is not to be sung, it is to be lived, she says, as she smears a paste of leaves and sacred clay on Kale's eyes. You must descend. Guided by her and 2 elders, he walks to the Cave of Origins, where a black pool reflects the sky like a mirror. As he dives, the water, living, neither cold nor hot, envelopes him in primordial visions, Ogo fleeing the chaos, Amma weaving the Nommo with starlight, the ark exploding in musical notes that become rivers and languages, and the loving sacrifice of the primordial Nommo, whose dismemberment was a seed, not an end. Kale then understands the secret. The third song does not call the ancestors, it recognizes that they never left. They are in the water, in the wind, in the silence between heartbeats. He opens his mouth underwater and sings. No bubbles rise, but the pool radiates light. Silver hands emerge from the bottom, not to drag him, but to bless him. When he resurfaces, his body is dry, but his eyes now have vertical pupils, like the water cats, messengers of the Nommo. Yaya kneels, you brought the song back. But the fourth is still missing. The most dangerous. Kale asks, her gaze fixed on the sky, which one? The Song of Oblivion, she replies. The one that erases the noise of the world, so that only harmony remains. And, looking at the horizon where the dust of machines still lingers, she adds, because men will not give up. And if they return, you will have to choose, protect the river, or protect the humanity that has forgotten it. Chapter 7, The Song of Forgetfulness. Feel the air thicken, as if time itself were holding its breath. Hear the silence not as absence, but as a sharp weapon, ready to cut through the noise of the world. See Kale standing on the riverbank, his vertical eyes fixed on the horizon, where dust and metal are approaching again. The fourth song is not taught. It is feared. In the deepest secrets of the Dogon tradition, there is a chant that does not create, does not heal, does not call, it erases. The Song of Forgetfulness does not destroy bodies, it erases memories. It makes men forget why they came, machines lose their purpose, contracts dissolve like smoke. But its price is terrible, whoever chants it loses the ability to be remembered. Their name is erased from the lips of the living, their face fades into the memories of their loved ones. It becomes an echo without origin. Yaya had warned him, this chant is not to protect the river. It is to protect the balance. And it should only be used when there is no longer a path, only when Ogo's chaos threatens to devour the last seed of order. And now, the trucks return, louder, noisier, carrying soldiers and a leader who declares coldly, you are obstacles. Kale doesn't respond. He walks to the center of the ancient bridge, closes his eyes, and begins. Not with audible sound, but with internal vibration, the chant of forgetfulness, which has no melody, only absence, the primordial silence that contains all possibilities and all losses. The earth trembles slightly. The leaves still. The crickets fall silent. The invaders pause, confused, forgetting their purpose. Within minutes, they depart without anger, as if awakened from a futile dream. The river sighs. But Kale falls to his knees, feeling something unravel within him, not flesh, but presence. When Yaya rushes to help him, for a moment he doesn't recognize his face. Who are you? He asks, tears in his eyes. I am the one who sings, he replies, his voice already seeming to come from far away. In the village, the children no longer call his name, they say only, the river man. The elders avoid looking at him directly, fearing they will forget him forever. Kale understands, he is becoming invisible to the ordinary world, but increasingly visible to the Nommo world. The full moon approaches. The Sigue is at the gates. And he knows that, when he sings the 4 chants in the final ceremony, there may be nothing left of him to return. Because the Guardian's final act is not to conquer. It is to disappear gracefully, leaving only the song, and the water. Chapter 8, The Dance of the Invisible Ark. Smell the scent of ritual smoke mingled with the early morning dew, the perfume of the threshold between the visible and the invisible. Hear the first stroke of the Jill, the sacred xylophone, echoing through the cliffs as if the stones themselves were singing. See the entire village gathered in silence, dressed in white, looking not at the sky but at the river, where something is about to emerge. It is the night of Sigue. Every 60 years, when Sirius B completes its silent orbit, the Dogon people reenact the descent of the Nommo, not as theater, but as an act of cosmic recreation. Because, for the Dogon, myth is not past, it is a continuous presence, which must be renewed lest the world collapse into the chaos of Ogo. Kale stands in the center of the circle, wrapped in a cloak of raffia fibers dyed with spring water, his face painted with white clay and silver stripes, the same pattern the elders describe on the Nommo's skin. But there is something different about him, his body seems less dense, almost on the verge of dissolution. Anyone who gazes at him for too long feels dizzy, as if he no longer belongs entirely to this world. Yaya, now carrying the Hagen staff, the first in decades given to a woman, raises her arms and declares, today we do not celebrate death. We celebrate continuity. The drums begin, slow and aquatic. Kale chants the 4 chants in sacred sequence, the water chant makes the river rise without rain. The wind chant makes the leaves dance in stellar spirals, the ancestors' chant warms the earth with the breath of the first Dogon. But the climax is the 4th canto, the Song of Forgetfulness, not to erase, but to purify, removing the noise of the world so that only harmony remains. Kale advances to the shore, removes his cloak, and, his body shining with a dew that does not come from the sky, begins. Not with sound, but with the absence of sound. The world holds its breath. Sirius pulses visibly. And then, from the sky and the water at the same time, the invisible ark emerges, not as an object, but as a field of vibration, and the Nommo appear in fluid, elongated, silvery forms, singing with it in unison. In that instant, everyone in the village remembers, not with their minds, but with their blood, that they are made of star and river, and that their destiny is not to dominate, but to attune. But Kale feels his body unraveling. Each note of the fourth canto consumes a piece of his humanity. His feet no longer touch the earth, they float, as if gravity has forgotten him. Yaya weeps silently, she knows he is not dying, but becoming a definitive bridge. As the last chord dissolves into thin air, Kale disappears. Only a puddle of water remains on the ground, and, in the middle of it, a seed of urine. But the river sings. The stars respond. And on the following nights, the fishermen swear they see, under the moonlight, an elongated figure swimming against the current, neither man nor god, but the guardian who fulfilled his destiny, now an eternal part of the song that shaped the world. Chapter 9, The Guardian Who Became a Current. Feel the river differently now, no longer just running water, but a flowing presence. Here, on windless nights, a low song coming from the depths, not of fish or mermaids, but of someone who has learned to be a river. See the village children, as they pass by the bank, leave small offerings, seeds, shells, wildflowers, and whisper a name no one taught, but everyone remembers, Kale. He did not die. He transformed. In Dogon cosmology, death is not an end, but a change of state, like water becoming vapor, cloud, rain. By chanting the 4 chants at Sigue, Kale was not taken by the Nommo, he became one of them, not by stellar origin, but by earthly choice. His physical body dissolved in the final resonance of the Song of Forgetfulness, but his essence, his aquatic Amma, merged with the current, the whisper of the cliffs, the silvery glow that dances on the river's surface even under the brightest sun. Now, those who walk with pure intention to the bank and ask, "Am I on the right path?" receive an answer, not in words, but in a gentle movement of the water, like an invisible hand pointing the way. Yaya, now recognized as the Hagen of all lineages, teaches the new generations, Kale is not a hero. He is a living memory. Because true guardians do not build temples, they become the path. But the outside world does not give up. Months later, the men in suits return, not with bulldozers, but with smiles and sustainable development papers, wanting to transform the plateau into a tourist attraction and the river into an immersive experience. Some young people hesitate, seduced by the promises of modernity. Faced with this, Yaya doesn't argue, she takes the undecided to the river at midnight. One of them, Daira, the grandson of one of Kale's first doubters, asks from the riverbank, "Should I accept their money?" The river responds with a gentle wave that leaves a shell-shaped ear at her feet. Hearing it, Daira doesn't hear sound, she hears silence. But a silence that waits. She understands, then, that the Nommo don't impose answers, they give clarity to choose. The next morning, she declares to the visitors, "You can build your things, but not here. This river isn't a resource. It's a master." The men insist, until, that night, vehicles fail, flashlights go out, and cell phones lose signal as if space itself had closed around the plateau. They leave the next day, forever. Because the river now has 2 guardians, the old ones, from Sirius, and a new one, made of earth, sacrifice, and song. On full moon nights, when the sky is clear, the Dogon point to Sirius and say, "Up there, they sing." "Down here," he answers. But the cycle doesn't end. Because every bridge needs someone to cross it. And already, at the edge of the road, a new generation walks toward the crossroads, with a question on its lips, and a seed in its hand. Chapter 10, The Song That Never Ends. Feel the earth beneath your feet not as soil, but as living memory. Hear the wind not as a breeze, but as the breath of the cosmos, the same breath that carried the Nommo from the star to the river. See the night sky over Bandiagara, where Sirius shines with an intensity that seems to say, "We are still here." The myth of the Nommo is endless. Because, in the Dogon view, myth is not history, it is the world breathing. Kale has not disappeared, he has become part of the fabric of the place, he is in the gentle curve of the river before the waterfall, in the dew that makes the piss spring, in the silence that precedes the right decision. His name is not in records or statues, but in the way the entire village lives, with quiet reverence, without theatrics, simply with attention. Yaya, now elderly but with eyes that pierce the veil between worlds, teaches the children that the Nommo did not come to be worshipped, but to be imitated. Living in harmony is not magic. It is constant attention. She shows how to plant according to the cycle of Sirius, how to listen to the river before speaking, how to dance the Kanaga not as a spectacle, but as an alignment of the body with the movement of the stars. But the true legacy is not in ritual gestures, it is in everyday choices. The young man who refuses a bribe because the river listens, the woman who teaches her daughter not to waste water, because every drop has a spirit, the elder who, upon seeing a tree being cut down, whispers, "You are cutting off an arm of the Nommo." The Dogon know that the chaos of Ogo never disappears, it only waits, hidden in greed, haste, and oblivion. And the Nommo are not saviors. They are walking reminders of the order that already exists, if we have the courage to follow it. And Kele? He is the link between the old and the new, the human who became a bridge, the song that chose to become a river. On initiation nights, when a new apprentice is taken to the water's edge, Yaya asks, "What do you hear?" If the young man answers, "Silence," she smiles. But if he says, a low chant, as if someone were teaching me how to breathe, she knows, the line hasn't been broken. Because the Nommo don't need temples. They need ears that listen, hands that respect, and hearts that, even when lost, still ask, "Am I on the right path?" And the river, always, answers. This story comes from the Dogon tradition of Mali, passed down orally by generations of Hagan and guardians of the Sigüe. If it touched you, comment, what ancestral lesson do you take from it?